Alright, well now that that's open, go and click on the tab at the bottom that says Ramp. That should bring up a new window. If it doesn't, then just right click on it, then left click on Show, and it will pop up somewhere. Once that's showing, go and select our main animation. Now we're set up to use the Ramp tool. What the Ramp tool does is change the intensity of your animation. Normally, everything's at 100%. This is why we get twitches like we saw earlier. The character will just be standing there idling, then boom, starts to play an animation. So rather than have everything jolt into place, we can use the ramp tool to make things happen gradually, which looks better. That said, the first thing I want to point out here are the time values in these two windows. Notice how the green scrubber for your choreography timeline has a different value than the one for the ramp tool. That's actually a bug. Normally these two values should line up exactly. If they don't, make sure your animation is selected, then just select the green scrubber and move it. Then it will wake up and start doing its job. This is important to remember because this bug happens all the time. So if you don't check to make sure your times match, then your work might end up out of sync. And speaking of times, you can also adjust your time scale the same way you do with your choreography window. Just hold down Control or Alt and move the scroll wheel with your mouse. And if you see that blue line there, that represents the end of your animation, which matches up with the choreography window. Okay, so now that we know what we're looking at, let's learn how to modify this animation. Go to the ramp window, hold down the Control key, then click anywhere in the blank space there. This will create a plot point that the ramping tool uses to shape the animation. Again, it's all about intensity. The top of the window represents 100%, the bottom is 0%. Notice how it's created a curve graph from this one point. What it's doing is averaging all the values. So it starts at 0, then goes to whatever my plot point is here, then goes back to 0 to end it. Also notice how since we have a graph now, it's also represented through a line in the choreography window so you can follow along. And if we scan by the animation now, notice how his reaction isn't as intense. That's because we've toned down everything a bit, but we don't want that. We just want it to fade in and maybe fade out. Now if on your screen the Turbo Cheese feet are awkwardly sliding into position, don't worry about it. That's just the preview being glitchy and using a different idling animation since we haven't specified one. It will use the correct idling animation inside the game. This first plot point starts at about 0.6 or 0.7 seconds, which is about where I want it. So let's just raise it by holding down Control and move it up. Now I want to create a second point over here. You should generally give yourself at least half a second to ramp your animation up or down, but there's no set rule. So if you want Superman busting out kung fu moves, you may want a shorter time than that. But if you just want some guy sitting on a couch yawning, you may want to take as long as a few seconds. It all depends on what you're trying to do. Let's play this back and see how it looks.
So is it yours?
Looks pretty good to me. I think I'll add a few more plot points here just to show you what's possible. Remember, hold down the Control button and click where you want the points to be.
So is it yours?
You can see now it's more irregular. Let's see what it looks like when it's played back.
So is it yours?
It doesn't look quite as good, so I'm going to get rid of these extra points. But what I just did there can be useful for breaking some monotony in animations or manipulating them. Say you wanted someone flapping his arms. If you had an animation with his arms outstretched, you could achieve that by ramping it up and down repeatedly. So anytime you're looking at animations for your characters, try to envision what's possible just by manipulating the intensity. It will give you some more options. Alright, to get rid of these, just drag a square over the points you want to remove, then press delete and they're gone. You can also move multiple points around this way by holding the Control key. Alright, now our animation should play smoothly, but I want to talk about another function before we go and run this.